Thank you very much. Let's see if I can work out how to work this. Yes, I take complete and full responsibility for all the success the British team has had to date. And I've got the even more challenging task of trying to link up riding round fast in circles with transport policy. So I'm going to start in a rather obtuse place. What's the difference between a talented club rider, somebody who can win national championships, break national records, and somebody who can win an Olympic title, can beat the rest of the world and break world records? What is the difference? Because they're both passionate. They're both passionate. They're both willing to work really hard. They're both going to make sacrifices. I think the natural assumption would be, well, it's going to be natural ability, isn't it? You know, it's got to be natural ability that turns somebody from one thing into another. Well, I can only really comment on my own case, give testimony, my own position, and I would say that I very much refute that. I'm very much typify the nurture over nature kind of thing. Didn't win anything at school at sports days. Didn't do anything academically. Even when I started cycling, I was particularly ordinary. So how did he end up getting on the top step of an Olympic podium? And it's not about money. You know, is it about money? Is it about who has the best resources to chase the technology and everything else? Well, when I sat on the bike and start line there, I was an unemployed carpenter from the small village of Hoylake, just outside of Liverpool, and we had absolutely no money. And I can remember my wife actually used the very last of our savings to get a ticket to come over. And she bought a ticket to get into the stadium outside from a tout. I've forgiven her now, but we had absolutely nothing. So it's not money. So what is it that makes that difference? Well, there is a common theme that actually spans that 20-year period. And I think it's a tangible reason. It's something that we can see, that there's a reason that we got from one gold medal in 72 years to going on to win the men's world road race championships, to win 8 gold medals at both of the last 2 Olympic Games, to win the Tour de France for the first time. And I think it's not a single thing. It's actually three elements, if you like. It started with Peter Keane and myself. We had, and after us, Dave Brailsford had, and every member of the British Cycling Performance team, and I'm talking, when I mean everybody, the mechanics, the secretaries, the carers, everybody involved had one single clearly defined goal that everybody referenced themselves. Everybody signed up to it. Everybody signed up to it and said, I agree to do this. And that's what they were taken on for. And then after that, they measured themselves against that one thing. And I think naturally, when you have a very well-defined, clear goal that everybody is signed up to, it inevitably leads you to the next thing, which is asking the right questions. What do we need to do to get to this place, to achieve this thing? And of course, that inevitably leads on to the next logical question, which is, well, what does that thing consist of? Breaking it down into its component parts. In this case of an Olympic performance, that's going to be power, it's going to be aerodynamics, it's going to be technical, tactical skills. And we break it down. And then the next logical question, of course, is, well, how do we achieve those things? And even when you get to a point where you say, I don't know, the next question is, okay, how do we find out? Or who would know? And actually, it's how I came to be involved with British cycling again, and I came back to running the research and development program, the Secret Squirrel Club. And in search of I don't know, how do we find out? We conducted over 10,000 tests and experiments in a 3.5-year period that led to 82 brand new designs and the delivery of 1,742 pieces of equipment and clothing to what would be the most successful British team of all time. And each and every one of those, in its small way, contributed to that performance. And I know, because of the last element, which is we measured every action, attitude, behaviour, everything that we did was referenced back to one single goal. Is this the best way to get a gold medal? It's a very simplistic view, I know, and perhaps a little naive, but it's something I still use, and I use in business today. Clearly define what I'm trying to achieve, before we start going anywhere. And British Cycling took that further. They got lottery funding, and Peter Keane and Dave Brailsford, they were able to expand it, they were able to refine it and maximise its potential. And the crude philosophy manifested itself as performance planning, as it came to be known. Effectively, very good business planning for sport. Every single athlete, every one of those athletes there, 3.5 years to go, had a performance planning document. And the very first thing on it was precisely what it was they were trying to achieve. So everybody knew what this was all about. And everybody, then they break that down into the steps to achieve that. And then it would be broken down further into who is going to do that, so the responsibilities, but everybody referenced back to the same thing. What has that got to do with road planning? Well, I'm somewhat of an observer here, I suppose. And what I see now is very, very promising. And I think right now, we've heard it mentioned already today, we are in an unprecedented position. We have an opportunity right now that we haven't had before. We may never see again. It is absolutely the peak time. The desire, as we've just heard about, is there to do this. So right now, what I see is this: we have some fantastic ingredients out there, and you know more about this than I do. I'm just an observer, but I see some fantastic ingredients. We've heard this morning about some more funding that's come towards us, and all of these are great things. But what I don't see is it being joined up at the moment. I don't know what the destination is. I don't know if anybody's stopped to say, this is what it looks like, the place, and Philip referred to it earlier, this is what we're trying to achieve. I see this, and for me as a cyclist, when I first saw this, it must have been 15 years ago now that we first saw these appear, a bike on the road. That was a massive step forward. But that, we see a lane down the side, and as a cyclist that says to me, well, that's for me, I'll ride down the inside. The guy in the van might see this as well, that's to get the cyclist out of my way. And then we get advice from reputable agencies saying, don't ride down the inside, somebody could turn left on you. So at the moment, it isn't joined up. I feel there's some great ingredients, and people are starting to join it up in this room, which I've just heard about and just listened in the last 10 minutes. So there's steps in the right direction. For me, I've defined my own goal. And my question, as Philip mentioned at the start, anybody who was at the Commons a few weeks ago, started by saying, what does the place I live look like? What do I want it to look like? And if you start there, it's one of those daft, simple questions that really makes you stop. Oh, hang on, what are we trying to achieve? Or what does it look like? And I want a village. I want my village where my kids can ride on the road. Right now, that's quite a scary statement to make. I want my kids to be able to ride the 400 metres to the park. I want to be able to ride to the shops. I want to be able to ride to meetings. I want that to be a pleasurable thing to look forward to. I want cars going slower through my village. I want there to be less of them. So I can very clearly paint what it is that I want, if you like, my dream, what it is to look like. And I get somewhat frustrated, therefore, because I've defined where I want to get to, when in the last few weeks, because of Bradley Wiggins' accident, I've got to do several interviews, and people want to use up the time to talk about high visibility and cyclists should wear helmets. And they're great tools, but because I've got this philosophy of here's where I want to get to, here's where I am now, I ask the question, does this get me any closer? And it actually gets me further away. That conversation gets me further away. I mean, Philip mentioned the National Cycling Strategy Board, which was as engaging and interesting as it sounds, and it was another standalone thing that wasn't joined up to other things. But one of the things that we were tasked with some time ago was a private members' bill to make helmets compulsory for children, and I thought, yeah, that's quite a good idea, fair enough. And we were tasked with going away and finding out what the effect of that would be. And it was fascinating. We found one of the best studies that we saw was in Australia, where they introduced mandatory use, and it dropped cycling use overnight by getting on for 50%. And for all of the small reasons of, I don't want to have to carry this round with me, it's going to mess up my hair, does that mean that cycling is dangerous? All of these small things meant that a huge amount of people just stopped doing it. So getting people to wear helmets doesn't stop a single accident from happening. For me, I want to focus on, hang on a minute, why are we talking about body armour? Why do I need to put these things on? 250 miles from here, in Holland, everybody rides around quite happily, much safer than they are here, and that's what I want to aim for, and that's what I want to have a conversation about. So it was fascinating to see that something that is for cyclist safety, if you increase cyclist numbers, there would be fewer accidents than if it is like trying to get people to wear helmets, which doesn't change the main thing, which is the environment. That's what would make me want to go and ride a bike. I want an environment that is fun and is comfortable to be in. And that was mentioned in the last few minutes as well. So I think, for me, it isn't about, for me, the most important thing that we can do is it's not about money, it's not about trying to get people to get more resources, because I think we can get caught up chasing money. It's about, first of all, the big thing that we need is to decide what is the place that we live, what does it look like, and what would make me want to go and use that form of transport. Thank you.